everybody, good morning. This is Jean here from True Love Quilts for You. I've been working on this quilt here. I just finished it up. As you know, I had been working on my block quilt that I was waiting for some fabric. It's a big project, so I'm going to get to that when I have a bit more time. I just ran this up. This is actually a pattern, a free pattern from Windham Fabrics. You can look it up online and download it. I printed it out. And it's called Paisley Splash. And as I say in the following two parts, not tutorials, how I made this, it's been done to death. It really has. You go on Pinterest and you see a million of this pattern. But I actually changed it up a bit. It's a small, almost a wall hanging, the way the pattern comes. From the manufacturer, but I added two elephants and different kind of splashes in a heart shape. This is like an orangey salmon backing fabric, and I'll take a close-up picture of it. I free motion quilted around all of the shapes, and then I did like free motion quilting drops here, and then like rain coming down from the splashes, and two hearts up there. Very whimsical. Of course, I added my rickrack to brighten it up. So it evolved as I was going along. I didn't quite know what I was going to be doing, but this is what I came up with. I'm going to now probably embark on my large block quilt. It's a big quilt, and I just don't fancy it right now. So I just wanted to whip something up. This is just a raw edge fusible applique that I've done quite a few times now. It's a little bit stiff. It makes it a little bit stiff, but once it's washed and worn and loved, it'll soften up. So that's my little project that I've been working on. My little boy elephant, my little girl elephant. Again, two parts. A tutorial, I suppose it is, how I do certain things to create something like this. My patchwork border, I quilted it in just the outside, just a straight stitch, and then this is all free motion quilting. And like I said, the backing is, you can really, actually, once you get up, you can really see the quilting on the back of this little quilt here. Gray and white stripe, one large gray and white stripe here on the inner sash, inner border, and then a small gray and white stripe for my binding. So that's my little quilt that I've been working on. So I just thought I'd put this up. And there will be part 1 and part 2, me beginning it and me finishing it. So I hope you enjoy it, folks. Thanks again. See you later. Bye. I wanted to show you what I'm working on. I might be beginning it. I've already made this quilt before, and it's called Paisley Splash. This is a free pattern that you can download from Windham Fabrics. Check out www.windhamfabrics.com in the free project section. This is just a small quilt, 23 by 34 inches, something like that, for this small elephant with all the little Paisley splashes. You can go and get the pattern for free, which I've done. I've made this quilt before. I made it bigger, and I sold it in my shop. This is what you get if you go online. This is this fabric that they're using here, showing it, is a Windham fabric line, and it's the Raj collection by French Bull. These bright fabrics sort of remind me of K-Facet fabrics, and it tells you how much you can use: 1 3/4, a yard, 1/8 of a yard. It's an applique quilt. All the pieces are to be stitched to the top of the quilt, so there are no seam allowances. Then you have your cutting instructions. Here's your template A down to template L. All of these Paisleys, which are that. This is the actual size of the Paisleys if you're going to be using the pattern. Now, I'm going to be making this pattern, but I'm not going to be, as I didn't before, I'm going to change it up to make it my own thing. I have an AccuQuilt, which I've shown you how to use, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to use a certain die I have to make something similar to that. But by all means, if you don't have a die, you'd have to cut out each one of these pattern pieces, and then here is the layout for your actual pattern with all of the pieces that you've cut. That to me is a little bit hard. So as I said, I've already made this one, and here is actually the elephant. Now, I cannot remember for the life of me how I actually made my elephant. It says on the pattern here, blow up 200%. I know for a fact I did not go to a copy store and make this elephant. Here is my elephant, what I did. Again, I did this a couple years ago. I think what I did is I actually just put 4 pieces of paper together. And then I think I copied this, and somehow, because it's not exact, I think I just sort of put this size on here and then just made it bigger, like an inch or an inch and a half all around. And I just cut this out of 4 pieces of paper taped together. You can see the tape here. And I just cut it out. So this was my pattern piece. And my quilt ended up larger. I don't know what this is, 200%. I don't know if it's this size or not. But anyway, this is what I've done with the pattern that I had gotten. Now, as I said, I've made this before, bigger. I have a picture. I don't quite know where it is. But I thought I don't make the same quilt twice. So what I thought I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 elephants. I'm going to put 1 elephant on one side, and then I'm going to do the mirror image of an elephant. So I'm going to have a boy elephant and a girl elephant. And then, I think I'm going to do this. You either see this video or don't. With these splashes, I'm going to, with the boy elephant over here, I'm going to actually make it the splashes like in a heart shaped, maybe. I think that's what I'll do. Make it like a heart shape coming out of the both trunks, because it would be trunk to trunk with the heart shape paisleys above. So what I do when I start a project is I start from my stash. I start pulling fabrics, and I found this fabric, and I just think, oh, so pretty, delightful. I'm going to be doing a boy elephant and a girl elephant. This is going to be the girl elephant. This gray, cream, goldy, hot pink, light pink, orange, light green, dark green print. Now, when I was making my other one, I was cognizant of the fact that the fabric that you choose for the elephant shouldn't read too small as to be boring, but it shouldn't read this bold, 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 huge print, because you could perhaps have a flower on the back, and it doesn't make a lot of sense and cut off. So I think this medium fabric, medium size print, I think that would be pretty for my girl elephant. And then I'm going to go very safe and rather boring. I'm going to do a dark gray for the male elephant on her side. I'm just going to do a gray elephant. I don't know what color background I'm going to be using. My other quilt I did use the white. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing that. But then I wanted to show you what I've pulled. What I do is I always look at my focal fabric. And this fabric has what? It has all these colors in it. So let me just see if I can move this here. These are some of the fabrics. Just see if I can move this, that I've chosen. Yeah, I've chosen grays, oranges, pinks, greens. I've chosen stripes, dots, solids. So obviously I'm not using all that lot of fabric, because I'm only going to be making what, 40 or 50 splashes, maybe 60 or 70 or 80. I don't know how many splashes to make up the to coming out of the trunk. But my point in pulling all of this fabric is to show the focal fabric, to show all of the different colors of the focal fabric, and then all of these splashes of paisley. So that is hopefully my next project. And I'll just keep filming, and I'll show you how I've come along with my elephant project. So yeah, I'm pleased about this, and I'll let you know. Oh, as far as, yeah, excuse me, I'm a bit tired. As far as the applique goes, But we appliqued, if you're following my block party, we appliqued the heart with a little bit of glue. Because there's so many of these pieces, I actually am going to be using either my steamer seam, my light steamer seam from the Warm Company, or this Pellon. I don't love this because it gets a little bit stiff, the image, but because there's so many pieces on this pattern, I think I will be using this, and then it softens up after washings and everything. And I do remember I used this product on my other quilt, so I'll be using this on my applique. And so this is the beginning of my quilt. See how it goes. I wanted to show you what I've just found. I was thinking what I was going to use as my background, and I found in my stash this real pretty pale gray fabric, and it's what would that be? That's 42. It's about 40 inches by 42, which actually will make it a nice quilt, a nice size quilt. So it's not white. You know, I said I might do it on the white. Now, I'm going to do it on this. Yeah, it's pretty. I like that. Here's my male elephant that I cut out, and I just wanted to show you how I did this. So there's my male guy. Yeah, I like that. I might put a border around this of all of the fabrics that I'm going to be using in the splashes to brighten it up around the edges. But there's my guy elephant. Okay. Now I just wanted to show you. I did use the Pellon that I was saying. What you do, and I wanted to show you this way if you've never seen it done before. I took my pattern and I traced around. I used a Sharpie. I traced around, and you're going to want to do it on you're tracing on the paper side. This product here has paper on one side. It has paper on one side. This is paper, and then this side is a very thin web. So it's a double-sided web, as like a glue, once you peel this paper off. So I printed the reverse of how I want it to go. Now remember, I want this elephant, doesn't really matter if I messed it up, which I've done before, because it's mirror image, and sometimes I get confused in my brain. So I want my elephant to go that way, trunks, right? And so I printed it out. I traced it out the opposite way. So this guy, I've traced it out this way, and when I take the paper off and I go to fuse this onto my background fabric, he's the right way. So here I've done this with my female elephant here, right? But I just wanted to show you this fabric that I've chosen. If you remember, this is a directional fabric. Well, I like to think of it as a directional fabric. Plus, I want these images. I'm looking at these gold and tan images and cream images here. I want them really nice, so I can actually see through. Hopefully, let me just see. I don't know if you guys can see. If you can see through this pattern piece here, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this cream image here, sort of this wreath, for lack of a better term. I put one here, I put one here, sort of centered, and I put one there. So I almost get 3 whole wreath. But I was so concentrated, I was so concentrating on that, and I took it over my ironing board and I traced it out. Look what I did. I cut off her tail. So what I'm going to do, and I thought, oh my word, it will make a difference. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably just have to I'll take a little bit of this over here and match up, what is it? It's like a pink flower. I'll just stick that on and then stitch that down. I cut off her tail. I was all excited. But as you can see, so I'm going to cut this out and then I'll show you my 2 elephants. So just to give you an idea, I've cut out my boy and my girl. And this is what I was talking about. If you can see, I didn't center it. I wanted 1, 2, 3 directional pieces. Really girly, feminine, pretty. And it has all of these, the flowers coming around. So I gave it a little bit of thought when I was seeing through the paper. But here you can see their tail. So what I do, this is still sticky. So what I'll do, yeah, that's a little bit of pink. I'll just stick a piece of I'll just iron a piece of fabric. Yeah, I'll just iron a piece of fabric on there and then cut it to shape. So she has her tail back, exactly the same as his. So yeah, I cut her tail off, but that'll work fine. So there's my girl and there's my boy. You can see, I mean, how quick does this work up? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to start cutting out small pieces of these fabrics here, of all my fabrics here, all my different fabrics, literally just pieces, and iron, like I have scraps left over, just iron on the back on some of these scraps, and then run that through my die. I have to get out my die and my AccuQuilt Cutter and find the die that I want and just start making a bunch of Paisley shapes. There'll be really no rhyme or reason for the pattern, but I'll just sort of outline in my head a nice size heart, and I'll probably mirror image the heart. One side the Paisleys are going that way, this side the Paisleys are going that way. But I'm just going to take a little tiny piece from each one of these fabrics, see how it goes, and start cutting out my Paisleys. And then what I'll do, I will just start positioning them in a heart shape on this background fabric, and then when everything is in place, that's when I remove, if you remember my bird on the wire, that's when my bird on the wire quilt, that's when I will remove the paper and then take it over to my machine. Now I do think, since this is such a large image and it's not all that fiddly, I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to actually blanket stitch, or maybe even satin stitch, my elephants onto my material. I won't do that with my splashes. I will just free motion quilt them on like I did my other quilt. But I do believe with my elephants I'll either blanket stitch them or satin stitch them. I have to see when I come to that point. Hi everybody, good morning. Jean here from True Love Quilts for You. I'm working on this elephant splash quilt. But I was thinking, some of you may be saying, why do you start projects and don't finish them? I don't. For the most part, I don't have any what are called UFOs, unfinished objects, in my sewing room. I pretty much started a quilt and I finished it. But if you remember, I was working on this quilt, okay? And I was waiting, my big block quilt that I've just done a few videos, not necessarily tutorials on. If you remember, I was waiting for my border fabric, which I got, which I put on. This is a fairly decent sized quilt. I believe it's about 95 by 90, something like that. And I went shopping in my room for backing material. I do have enough backing. I have like 6 yards of this backing and 4 yards. I would have had to have, I don't have enough backing for this quilt. I could have pieced it. I've done a tutorial on actually how I've pieced it. I do large, like 18-inch blocks and just piece 2 fabrics together. I have enough. I just didn't fancy. I just wanted for a change. I don't use it a lot. I wanted for a change to use extra wide backing fabric. So I went to actually, I've gotten it just once or twice before from Connecting Threads. They have 104 wide fabric. Not a tremendous selection, obviously, but for backing. So I ordered 104 wide backing fabric. I can lay this out in my dining room, let it hang over. I can baste it. So that should be here today or tomorrow. And it's like a pretty, I've never been disappointed with fabric from connectingthreads.com. It's it looks sort of like a tan and cream toile print. Real pretty, that I thought would go with this. So that's why this has been put on the sideline just for the time being. And then I'm just gonna, I don't know how I'm gonna quilt this. I don't know if I'm gonna experiment with my rulers. And I've been doing so many videos, I've been watching so many videos about my rulers that I got, quilting rulers. And somebody said, you know, you're so fast that they'll probably slow you down. They look cumbersome. I do know how to free motion quilt, but I wanted to give them a try, and I thought, well, maybe I'll experiment on this quilt. I'll see how it goes. I'm not experiment, like do some trial runs, but maybe I'll fill this quilt with something. I had gotten some lovely suggestions on making florals and then more of a stippling in here. But I haven't thought yet how I'm going to actually quilt this quilt. Although I'm really thrilled, I'm really thrilled with my border fabric. It's pretty, isn't it? That like golden tanny cream. I really love it with this quilt. So that's that. So don't think I'm flighty airhead, which I am. But what I wanted to do is so I go from, you know, from patterns to just winging it, and this I'm winging it. Again, I think I showed you last night how I started out putting my elephants. This is, again, if you're just tuning in, this is a free pattern from Windham Fabrics. You can go online and print it out. It's called Paisley Splash, and actually, it's sort of done to death. You can go on Pinterest and you see this lovely elephant with the splashes. I'm changing it up a bit. With two elephants. I just did two elephants. I was showing you how I actually used my Pellon, my web, Fusible Web. So again, I like to lay everything out in front of me. I just had this piece of fabric. Wow, like it was pretty much a yard, about 39 inches by 42 inches or something like that. So I'm just using it like that. I just pulled it off my shelf. So there's my elephants. Now what I was saying I was going to do, I'm going to, the pattern, as you can see, has splashes. One elephant is splashing all these paisley shapes. And they give you the pattern for the different for the different paisleys, and then a layout. So there's the paisleys that are going to be your splashes. And as I told you last night, I've pulled all of these fabrics. There must be 25 different fabrics there. Looking at this, actually, I don't have a lot of room. I don't have a lot of room to make the heart, an imaginary heart. I'll sort of you know, do an outline. I won't mark my fabric, but in my mind where a heart would be. There's not a lot of space for my splashes, so I don't need a lot. Maybe even just one of each of these fabrics or two. I'm not using this pattern. What I have, and I know you people probably don't have it, but over the years I've bought I have my AccuQuilt Cutter, and it comes with dies, and I dug these two dies out, and this is like a teardrop feather die, which looks to me like splashes. So I'm going to use that die, run a few pieces through there, and then I'm going to use this die, which is again a feather. And these are big. These are big. And when I look at the different, at the pattern, and then these dies, which automatically cut it out for me, I'll just run this through my AccuCutter with lots of fabric, which I've backed with the Pellon, to make it like a fusible interfacing, to fuse it on. I like these dies. So that won't take me very long. what's going to be the longest is cutting out my fabrics and then fusing the interfacing. So that's what I'm going to be doing this morning. And then what I thought I would do is I'm going to border this quilt. And how I'm going to border the quilt is I believe I'm going to cut from each one of my fabrics this like a lovely explosion of color after the heart's done. I think I'm just going to cut from all my fabrics small strips and do like strip sets and then subcut them into 2.5 inch. It will look like 2.5 inch squares going around the whole border of all of these pretty colors. Take the color outside because the backing is very subtle. My male elephant is very subtle. She's so pretty. And then I do have her fabric left over, but I don't think I'm going to use any of this on my border. I think I just wanted this focal here and then have my other a more graphic pattern around the whole border. Maybe like 3 2.5 inch squares sewn together, like a checkerboard effect out of all these fabrics. I think that's what I'm going to do. But right now, I'm going to start ironing my Pellon I'm going to start ironing this onto the backs of all my materials, all this fabric. And then what you do is I'll show you. I've done it before. I'll show you. You lay the dye on the machine and roll the dye through if you haven't seen that done. But I'm just going to start doing bits. Yeah. So and I did get a lovely. It's to come, but I got a lovely suggestions from some of you readers. I don't use my AccuQuilt an awfully lot. I know a lot of people do for their actual squares and half square triangles, things like that, strips. I don't. I use it more for real decorative things. I have dies for decorative, and I don't use it often. And I'll show you what happens. You put this cutting mat on the die. Well, I was like lifting it up, and all this stuff sticks. There's a trick to it, and thank you so much, everybody. You slide this die off of your. You slide the cutting mat off of your die, and then all of the pieces stay on the die, and then you can peel them. Real quick way to make splashes. Yeah, so here's my elephant. I was thinking how I'm going to quilt them. The splashes will go, I just realized, I'm going to make a heart, but instead of making the heart like the Paisleys go the inside, I want it to splash outwards. I just thought that. So maybe my outside heart shapes will splash outward because I was thinking they're like splashing. I want to be doing my free motion quilting stitch with maybe like rain coming down. Here's my heart, and then I have, from the Paisleys, if you can understand. I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, I'm working on that today. Hopefully my material will come from my backing. That's a big project. I just wanted to fill my day with something small and and easy and quick. Yeah, so here's my elephants. Aren't they sweet? They're sweet. I like them. Okay, so let me just get started. I fixed her tail. I made her tail fixed. I cut her tail off. So yeah, I'm going to get started cutting out all my stuff and fusing it. I just wanted to show you how, if you've not seen me do it before, how this AccuQuilt Cutter works. What I've done is just on a whole bunch of different pieces of the things that I've cut out at random, my colorways. Some bigger, some smaller, to cover the actual die. I've just ironed on the back of the Pellon interfacing to the actually almost just scraps, small pieces of fabric. And then what I've done, I've already started cutting out some of these shapes. the splash shapes. And that's on this die. I've started using this die. This is the Go die. This is called, this is from Sarah Vedler. Heather Feather, it's called, which I think is delightful. So what you do is you lay down, in this case, I'm laying down one bit of orange, face down, the Pellon, the paper side down on my die, and then I'm just putting two different scraps with the paper. I think it can take 4 or 6, however many to the instructions of layers. Then you put the die cutting mat on it, and you literally just roll it through your AccuQuilt. And then this was the magical part, because I messed up before. You just slide the cutting mat off. Isn't that cool? I was trying to lift it up, and static electricity, it was all messing up. So anyway, so then look, I get more splashes. Like, look at that. Isn't that awesome? It just slices through your splashes. So now I have all the pinks and the grays and the greens. And as you know, my thought was to incorporate the colors of this focal fabric for my little girl elephant. So that's why I'm using the gray, the orange, the pink, the green. So look, I mean, literally just a few minutes, it just slices right through. And what this does is there's a blade. Let me just put this aside for a second. There's a blade in here. This is the mat. There's a blade in here, and so when you put the fabric on top and the cutting mat, this forces the fabric on, under the cutting mat into the blades, and it just slices it into shape. So look at that. Like I have all these lovely, splashes, Paisley, that they're paper backed. I'll just take the paper off, position them in my heart shape. I'll continue. I have quite a few other fabrics, and then I'll use this die also to get more, another splash shape. So anyway, I just thought I'd just share that with you, how the actual AccuQuilt die cutter works. I've put my splashes after cutting them. I only have a few left here. But I like that arrangement there. And if you can see, I'm trying to have a heart, loosely, a heart with just some splashes coming off it. And I just decided I'll just put 1 or 2 little splashes under here. So I'm pretty comfortable with that arrangement. I like that. I'll make sure that there's pretty much, when I peel the paper off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to peel this paper off, and it's not sticky, but that will hold on to there. I'll just keep peeling paper off, and I'll just make sure when I place them that there's a decent space between all of them. It's obviously supposed to be random, but you want your eye to see, half an inch between all of these little tails and everything. Just a little, or not, I don't know, whatever. So yeah, so there's my heart. And then I'll peel off my paper here, and I'll just push this down. You can, this product allows you just to push your, to fix it down, and then I'll very carefully take it over to my ironing board, and then I'll iron it down. Yeah, I'll iron it down. I decided I'm not going to satin stitch or blanket stitch my elephants on. I'm just going to come along and I'm just going to raw edge applique them. I could, but I don't fancy doing it. And the raw edge applique will hold them on really nice. And then my quilting actual free motion quilting stitches. This is what I was talking about, sort of like a rainbow pattern, and then just around all of those. There's not a lot of quilting on this. And then I'm going to start cutting my borders, my like strip sets. I'll show you how I do that, and then subcut them, and then just make a border around it, and then I'll back it and I'll quilt it. That didn't take long, and I think it's quite delightful. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to affix these down now, and I'll iron them down.